Hey Rockstars, Lij Shaw with Recording Studio Rockstars, and I am standing here with Craig
Breckenridge.
Craig
Breckenridge from Earthworks.
From Earthworks Microphones.
Yeah.
An amazing line of microphones. You guys have been around since early 90s.
Yeah, 1995 is when, at the end of 95 is when Mr. Blackmer decided to do the company. Actually, Earthworks existed as a construction company. That's why I call a microphone company Earthworks. Well, it's really expensive to incorporate and do things, so. But he had a bunch of other businesses before. You know, he had his most famous business was DBX. He was the inventor of DBX VCA RMS technology.
Rockstars, DBX stands for David Blackmer Industries.
Well, it could have. I mean, he said he claimed it stood for decibel expansion. You know, and he was always kind of intrigued that people use DBX compressors to crush things like drums and stuff instead of expanding things, which is what the original need was to expand like tape and audio media and different things because it's bandwidth limited.
Yeah, so believe what Craig says, not what I say, but we'll keep going.
But everybody says DBX over David Blackmer. It makes sense.
I had an opportunity many years ago in about 96, 97 to go through New Hampshire and meet David Blackmer and Eric, his son too, and take a tour of the factory, which was an amazing experience. I don't know if I may be able to find that video one day where we got to walk through and stuff, but I don't want to take, this isn't about me, so tell us more about you and Earthworks here.
Okay, well sure. I mean, the factory is still the same. It's this about 100-year-old mill building, big brick building, and and we have about 30 employees, and we've been consistently been faithful to the vision and technology of Mr. David Blackmer, and of course his sons Eric and Daniel are intimately involved in either the engineering or the sales and promotion side of the business. And Heidi Blackmer still owns it. So it's a family-owned business. It's made in USA product, and what a product it is. You know, Mr. Blackmer was an engineer's engineer. You know, he grew up in the time of the tube as it transitioned to the transistor, and went to MIT, went to Harvard, worked at Raytheon. He got to meet the people that invented the transistor. So he had, in addition to being a genius, he had an incredibly deep understanding of transistor. As a matter of fact, he discovered different transistor types himself, So in his life, he had 44 patents, but 22 of the patents relate to the Earthworks microphone technology. And and then the whole company started was in the midst of doing other things like, developing a laundromat that would recycle its own wastewater and having a restaurant and doing this company this thing and getting a patent on a blood gas analyzer and all this stuff. He was working on why the problem, like speakers. Why do they not sound real? They sound like speakers. This isn't right. And he came to the conclusion, based upon his research and of course that of many other physicists, such that with human beings, we can detect falseness in sound if it is not time coherent. That sound travels through air at a rate and frequencies. If they hit our ear at different times, we say, well, we know something's not correct. It's artificial in some kind of way. So he, in FFT analysis world, at fast Fourier transform, the faster a rise time of a microphone, the greater its high frequency extension. And by that methodology or in terms, human beings can, you would need a 100 kilohertz speaker to equal the accuracy of our perception between our two ears, and where we hear a sound and point at it. That's equivalent to 100 kilohertz in terms of FFT analysis. So
in other words, you need a speaker that's that good in order to really understand the music coming out of it?
Well, in order to be like nature, like our sense organ, So Morse 1 frequency was arrival time. So we built a speaker. It was a 40 hertz to 40K speaker, twice above what our audible frequency range is, but it needed to be that fast for the arrival time information to be intact.
May I jump in? When I was in his office talking to him about the history of Earthworks, he told me about the laundromat, which was a really cool story for you to bring up again. But he had a pair of speakers up on the desk across from his office, and they were just like made out of plywood and a couple of speakers like that.
They're still there.
And I think he had a DAT machine or something that would do 2496, and he played us recordings of race cars. And he was saying that, when we arrive at the ability to do 2496, I could be getting the figures wrong, but then we're going to start to be able to have audio that's getting close to listenable. So.
No, and we were getting progressively closer and closer to that. And you can look at the people that are in the the monitor fields today, or the people who are doing like loudspeakers, like the Martins, the Myers, the Vocals, the BMC Audios. All those guys have extended bandwidth product, but it's DSP or physically designed to make things accurate in time and have a coherent wave of all frequencies hitting us at the same time. So, and David was onto that exact same thing. So in pursuit of that goal, he found out that the best equipment money could buy in 1995 for test and measurement was not good enough. And because his ears, when he's matching these 40 kilohertz tweeters, were detecting falseness at the audio precision analyzer, which is probably $30,000 at that time, and the B&K microphones, which are probably $4,000 at that time, or $3,000, weren't right. So what he did is he invented a technology. He basically is kind of based upon something George Neumann did back probably in the 30s or 40s, but he used a spark jumping a gap. And so he created this instantaneous primary source. So now you have a primary acoustical source, a benchmark, and that's what you're going to shoot for. So if you can make a microphone look like that or a speaker look like that, done, perfection. But this
can we also talk a little bit about? So David was somebody who would he'd figure out and invent something that hadn't been done before, and he didn't let anything get in his way in the process of doing that. Can you describe to us the testing chamber that was at Earthworks? I'm sure it's different now, but when I was there in '95, it was
like
pretty
a meat
cool.
Locker? Yeah, it's still that.
It's still that. So it's like a reconverted meat locker with the insulation inside it to make it an anechoic chamber.
Yeah, and again, the frequency is of short duration. You don't have to worry about reflections because it's instantaneous. We get the measurement off of that before it has time to bounce off a wall and pollute the measurement and stuff.
Now, wait, so, and again, I'm no expert on this, but my understanding is that when you have an instantaneous transient like that, it reflects all frequencies. Right? And the lowest frequency to the highest frequency is in that. That sounds like a math problem I was supposed to understand in calculus, but that's what it is, right?
I think that's what that's part of the magic of what he was able to work out, to take that information and make it truly useful in developing a product.
Well, why don't we jump forward and show us some of the microphones? Sure. Because back in '95, I was fortunate. I had been interning at Woodland Studios, and Bob Solomon was my mentor there, and he introduced me to Earthworks, and he said, you should call these guys, and I got a pair of TC30Ks.
Yeah, okay.
So it was like one of the early ones, but I know you guys have done a whole massive line of great stuff since then.
Well, and what you experienced in the TC30K, it kind of lives on today, and what we still have a TC series. TC series stands for time coherent. They're omnidirectional microphones. They're truly omnidirectional, which is something that's one of David's patents, is how he was able to make patterns nearly textbook perfect. And it's an extreme usable difference. So so we have the TC series, which are lower cost omnis, great for drum recordings where you need like 150 dB max SPL with that before distortion.
Let's come to this side so that she can come in close and we can see you.
Yeah, so we have these, and these are lower cost. Now, the next series we have is our Qdcs, which are like the TCs, but they're more sensitive and much lower self-noise. So the Qdcs have about 19 dBA weighted self-noise. The TCs about 25, 26. Again, not a big deal if you're doing loud sources, but if you're doing like, symphonic stuff or intimate type things, and you have to turn up the gain, they may be an issue. Or using compression, then it can definitely be an issue. And then we have our M series, our measurement series. The QTC and the M series are very, very related. It's just the way we accessorize and document. That's the only difference, essentially. And our most popular measurement mic is the QTC 40, which is this one here, it's a 4 hertz to 40 kilohertz mic.
You can feel free to stick your finger in the shot there and point to the one you're talking about.
Yeah, so this is a QTC 40. And by and large, it's arguably our most spectrally balanced microphone that we make. It's a favorite recording people. We make a 50, which is like 3 hertz to 50, but most people settle on the 40. It's just very pleasant, to use that word musical. They're all flat, but it just seems to render things in a way that we like to hear it.
I have to say my TC30K has sounded pretty balanced to begin with. So,
yeah, you would say if you go from a 30 to 40K, there's a greater sense of openness. It would be the easiest way to describe it. It's like your room just kind of got bigger a little bit,
Now, as I recall, my TC30Ks were Omni, So there were times where I sort of wondered what it would be like to have a cardioid, and now you have directional mics as well, too?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, Mr. Blackmer, by popular demand, he came up with a series of cardioid mics and hypercardioid also. And I just wanted to graphically show this. So this is a typical cardioid. Actually, this is a very, very good cardioid mic, a brand from Denmark. And and then this is our typical cardioid pattern. So because of this pattern, you have almost half of our omni pattern. So one microphone, like say in a drum overhead or in a choir situation, the people at the edge are not being, they're still full frequency. So one mic can do the work of 2 or 3 in many cases, and less is always more. Less EQ you have to use, good thing. Less phase errors and fewer microphones, less comb filtering. So the net effect is you can get a simpler setup, a recording situation, and get a far superior recording. And that coupled with the very, very fast, transient capture makes the things great. So in that regard, we make mics in the 20, 30, and 40 kilohertz range in our cardioids or hypercardioids, and largely it's a matter of form factor of what is suitable to you. So we do lectern mics, which are actually, I've used them on congas and acoustic guitars. They're awesome.
We need that for this interview, right? Where we can do the Bob Barker thing, right?
That, yeah. And, we have an SR40V. This is our flagship vocal mic, 30 to 40K flat mic. Awesome for harmonies and people that are, the female vocalists. Most vocal mics, you'll notice they have a presence peak. There's a boost, maybe in that 5K region, maybe even lower than that, maybe higher, but it's annoying if you're a soprano singer. Yeah. And the engineers have to work with that extra sibilance that starts blasting out, or it sounds strident. These mics will sound warm to those people, but yet you lose nothing in detail because, again, the rise time. It's so quick, it captures the attack. So you get detail naturally, all the consonants come through. It's not just vowel sounds that you're hearing, you need the consonants to start, stop, words and understand things. So it's really a boon. It's very easy to use, and the 32 dB rear rejection in all our cardioids, you get like a bonus 12 dB of gain before feedback you wouldn't get with other products. So
and who doesn't want a bonus 12 dB? You know what I mean?
We all want bonus.
Now it looks like you also have sort of a PZM pressure zone microphone. Is that what this is?
Yeah. Well, this is rather new. Well, one of the things that we've discovered, thanks commercially, has been very, very helpful to us. The Earthworks technology is exactly what people need in conferencing. The idea of having a simple, great mic that picks up in all directions or in one direction accurately is like a time saver, and it saves on DSP and how many channels you need. And so while the mics themselves are not inexpensive, most of our products between $500 and $1,000, that we're talking about here. But it's very, very cost effective and it gets the job done. So our customers are people that want quality, and the installers, if it's easier to work with and the customer can operate it easy, then it's all the better. This mic here is part of that series. It's a boundary mic. So we take our 30 kilohertz omnidirectional capsule and we merge it into this hockey puck weighted base platform. So now that omni it's a hemisphere, and it's laying on the table. Now boundary effect, and we also reduced our electronics, and we got a little keyhole slot, you can make it permanent if you want. But the boundary effect is really interesting, because when you attach something to a table or a flat surface, everything goes nuts. It's like, so you're starting over from an engineering standpoint to make this thing work. So Tawfiq Bellamy is he's one of our brilliant engineers. He worked this thing out so it's accurate. It's very, very flat from 0 degrees to 60 degrees all the way around. So if you're laying on a table, it's perfect. If you're standing or sitting. And there may be some musical applications. We've already had people use these on throwing them on floors, like there's an African dance stage troupe with 2 omnis left to right, 3 of these on the floor. And the enhancement to this is it has a 60-ish hertz, very narrow cut, low frequency filter. So it takes out all the thump from the table, that giant plosive you would ordinarily get from these type of devices.
Well, right on. Well, Craig, thank you so much for telling us all this stuff. That wasn't 1 or 2 minutes at all, was it? Sorry about that.
Don't get me started.
Well, awesome. Thanks. How can people find out more about Earthworks?
Well, www.earthworksaudio.com. And got stories, sound samples, full lines. We also have a demo loaner program if you feel like to investigate our product. Like if you're really serious, it's like, well, I'm not so sure, we'll send something out to you to try. And yeah, and picture's worth 1,000 words. Hearing these things, it tells it all.
Everything I recorded with my Earthworks sounded great.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, it's great.
as long as I played something great.
Well, that's right. We can't help with that. We don't have the talent knob on there yet.
Awesome. Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Lij.
Cheers. See you, rock stars.